Good evening, everybody, and welcome. This is Can-Am SimSport. This is our Summer Endurance Series. Welcome to Kyalami Grand Prix Circuit here in Midrand, South Africa. This is one of the most iconic racing venues on the African continent and one of my personal favorite race circuits to drive. We drove it last season in Formula USA. Such a beautifully fun flowing circuit. Fast, a lot of elevation, a lot of challenging corners. I do love this circuit. Fun fact, Kyalami translates to my home in Zulu, a fitting name for a circuit that has been present in South Africa's home since 1961. Just over 2.8 miles, 16 turns. Absolute blast of a circuit to drive. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome again to Kyalami for Cass's Summer Endurance Series. Running a little behind schedule, but that's okay. We're here nonetheless, watching our championship leader Nikita as he is struggling to find the speed he's had all season long. While we're talking about the track here in our brief warm-up session, a few things of note. Kyalami, as I mentioned, such a fun flowing circuit, but definitely rewards precision and a good healthy rhythm. You know, it's a constant dance in any class car, GT3 or GT4, trying to navigate the balance of a car, of a track. And stringing together a lot of clean laps is very difficult because every corner is connected to the next. You know, you get off in the entry of 1, the entry of 4, it's just going to set you up poorly for the rest of the sequence. So it's very critical that drivers maintain a nice bit of precision here. Another fun fact for folks, while Formula One has not raced here since, I believe, 1993, Kyalami is still FIA Grade 2 certified and considered one of the world's finest permanent road courses. Now follow Ian Arnold, and I apologize for the hitching, folks. I'm not sure what is causing that. Might just have to live with it this evening. Trying something a little different tonight, folks. Using some... I didn't have a lot of opportunity to make pre-race notes. I've been super-duper busy. But good old AI was able to sweep to the rescue, give me some overall details. So let me know how it feels. Trying to step up the broadcast quality. I didn't use its pre-written fun fact, but I'll go ahead and read it to you. Nestled more than 5,000 feet above sea level, Kyalami isn't just a racetrack, it's a roller coaster carved into the South African countryside where every lap tests a driver's precision, bravery, and rhythm. That courtesy of AI. But we are now winding to a close here in the free practice session. Ben Grabo, the fastest in the GT3 category with a 42.380. Trailing just behind him is Ian Arnold. Now, we don't hand out trophies. I always say it. We don't hand out trophies for warm-up. But it is nice to know if you are faster in warm-up than the guys you're racing against. Usually means you stand a decent chance of being somewhat competitive, so props to Ben Grabo. Takes a lot to best the likes of Nikita but Ben Grabo seeming to do so without much issue. As we set the stage now for qualifying, I'm going to do my best here to follow the qualifying order and see who is where. I believe 11th in class. I'm looking here. Here we go. It was Nikita will be the first driver out on the grid. How fitting to have Nikita first out leading the championship. As you see him bobbing and weaving left to right, trying to get some heat in those Michelin tires in the number 70 Kanzen Performance Machine. Always appreciate continuity here in Can-Am SimSport. That was the leading sponsor on his Stock USA Gen 3 series that we ran just a few weeks ago. So happy to be here in South Africa, folks. Well and truly one of my favorite circuits to drive. Deceptively challenging. It's got such a great flow. Beautiful elevation changes, and this circuit right here, this turn specifically, a very challenging turn to set the approach. You're coming out of a blind crest, and you've got to be on the brakes or prepared to hit the brakes, depending on the class that you're running in, well before you're actually there. So really testing drivers' track knowledge as well as the brake balance in these cars. So you see Nikita eating up all the curb as he comes around the final corner for his first flying lap here in South Africa. 16 turns, 2.8 miles. What does your championship leader have in the bank for qualifying tonight? Can he dethrone Ben Grabo from the free practice session? We shall see what he's got in store. Beautifully smooth from the AMG GT3. Ignore the damage on board that machine. That seems to be carried over from the free practice session when the car glitched into the garage. Now, things I'm not sure if AMS2 will simulate or not. A few things to take note of here at Kyalami, things that especially here in these high-power, high-downforce GT cars might be worth noting. The elevation here at Kyalami is one of its defining characteristics. The air, you know, we just talked about how much higher up off the ground we are. 5,000 feet above sea level, okay? The air is thinner than it is at, you know, Indianapolis or Road America or Road Atlanta. So this creates lower downforce on these GT3 machines, thus making it a little bit harder to find the balance, with Nikita coming around to 41,967. Also forces a little bit less engine power. So it becomes a battle of pick and choose where the compromise will be. We will now jump back to, I believe, that's not right. It's Chinese food. There, Ben Grabo with a 42.825. Folks, I'm thinking that Nikita had some pace in the bag from the warm-up session, as he is just now preparing, I believe, to come around the hairpin. Very challenging corner here. And if you bear with me here, we will go on board with Nikita. and ride for a lap with your championship leader. This is the final sector here. Now I'm going to do my best to pronounce these correctly as we cross the line. Down the blisteringly fast front straightaway through the kink, and Nikita aborts the run right when I start commentating on it. Thank you, Nikita, for that. That was sarcasm, by the way. Let's see, is it Chill Blast? We'll follow Chill Blast, who's currently sitting P7 with a 44.808. 4 minutes left in qualifying tonight. Longer qualifying session than normal. As Chill Blast crosses the line, moves up with a 43.632, now down through the kink on the front straightaway and into turn 1, Crowthorne, I apologize. Very challenging downhill braking zone here. And again, we talked about the flowing corners right here into Juxie Sweep and up into Barbecue. This right here is such a tricky corner to get right. There's a lot of runoff on the side, on the passenger, driver's right. And down the run into Sunset, super fast corner here. You can see just in the attitude of the car, the liftoff oversteer as he downshifts up into Clubhouse Bend, and you're getting kind of an idea just now of the elevation. And this chicane up here, the S, is such a tricky section. They push you to want to go faster, and then this right here, the crest I was talking about, you have to preemptively prepare yourself for Lukop. Around the hairpin that is Lukop, and look at this big downhill run. Drivers will be flat on the throttle right here. Maybe a brief lift, but once the tires are warm and the aero balance is there, you're not lifting after mineshaft. Down into the Crocodile's hairpin. The Cheetah Kink. Very challenging kink. Almost have to lift, and then a very tight radius corner here for Ingwe. And that is a lap here at Kyalami. Rode on board with Chill Blast, still sitting at a 42.998. Ben Grabo hoping to improve to a 42.146. Joe Dirt leading your GT4 category, but only just over Dill Destroyer in the AMG with a big slide. I'm trying to establish what turn that was. I believe he just went through Barbecue Corner, and he's off into the grass on the run down the hill towards Sunset. Big lift. Trying to get back on the power, using all the runoff there in that AMG. I don't know if this will be good enough to take pole in class. He's doing his best. Banging through the gears here. Down mine shaft. Love that camera angle. You just kind of get a sense of the speed, and you hear no lift on the throttle. He was foot in it the entire way through that bend. Through the Cheetah Kink. Again, hardly a kink as you see he hops the curbs, gets off and into the dirt, and down through Ingwe, the final corner here. The big wide exit. 49.260 is the time for him to beat. Can he best his best? He does not. That leaves Joe Dirt in P1 right now with a 49.161. Ben Grabo is closing the gap on pole position. As we catch him on the drive down to Sunset. Let's see what the driver of the Aston has in store for us tonight in GT3 class. currently sitting with the fastest Sector 2, and this will be his final lap. Down through the S's. Folks, such a challenging sector there. I cannot stress it enough. And then up the hill into the Lukop hairpin. So difficult. The camera angles, onboards, none of it does that corner justice. The only thing you can really do to gain an understanding of how challenging that corner is to drive it as we go fast through the mineshaft kink. Another tight right-hander as he approaches Cheetah. Brief lift. Beautifully done using all the track. He's about a 1/10.5 shy of pole position. Does he make it in his final lap? 41.898 was his best, and he does not best his best. Ben Grable will start in row 2, P2. We now follow Red Nose 58, driving the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo, a personal favorite GT3 of mine, right up there with the Mustang. I do truly love the GT3 McLaren. I drove it for America's Racing League in their IMSA series, a bit partial, I guess. But your qualifying order with Red Nose jumping to the top with a 41.745, beating Nikita by 0.003 seconds. Puts Nikita down into P2. Ben Grabo in P3, GT3 category. That rounds out your top 3. Something Fierce, Ian Arnold, Chill Blast, Soupy, CB, Vicnet, Chinese Food, Crazy Canuck, and Bermside. Takes you through the GT3 category into GT4. Joe Dirt holding on to the pole position there, but just barely. Dill Destroyer trying to string together a fast lap, but not able really to make it happen, and will start P2 in the GT4 category. Behind him, Spectre, Heel Toe Hero, Spiky Cactus. We love Spiky. We see him over at America's Racing League. Tactical Nuclear Pingu in P6. Waylon Crace, Sturhaus, Jontsu, Orange Hat, Hogan's Alley Hero, and Kinetic Curb. Folks, I am seeing a heartbreaking absence of a Mr. Second Place Merchant. Well and truly upsetting, but the race will go on. 12 drivers in GT4 competition, 12 drivers in GT3 competition. As drivers prepare to grid for the manual formation lap as we get this race well underway. If you're just tuning in, this is Can-Am SimSport, a.k.a. Cass. We are witnessing the Summer Endurance Multi-Class Series. This is a bi-weekly race, hour-and-a-half long race distance featuring the GT3s and the GT4s. I am your broadcast host. You can call me Les. Ryan Cooper is another handle you may refer to me as. And we watch as our pole sitter in the GT3 McLaren will take the field to the formation lap. What a brilliant drive from Red Nose. Right there at the end, managing to post a heater of a lap. And besting your championship leader by 3/1000ths of a second. Nikita will surely be looking to capitalize on the race start as the grid forms up. Joe Dirt will be taking your GT4 field to the green in the number 9 Steam Machine. Pun intended, driving that Camaro GT4 sponsored by the Steam Crew. Love that livery. I love the Borderlands style artistic panel drawing and cell shade style livery. Brilliantly done. Well done, Joe Dirt. Got a nice blend of manufacturers, but the top 5 are narrowed down to just 3. Chevy, Mercedes, and Alpine with your GT3 category. Seeing a pretty healthy blend of manufacturers in the top 5 as well. With Red Nose and the McLaren, Nikita driving the Mercedes AMG GT3, Ben Grabo in the Aston. I believe Something Fierce is in the BMW, and Ian Arnold in the Corvette GT3. I hope you all are ready for an absolute heck of a race as the field begins to grid up on the approach to the Cheetah Kink. Nikita will be looking to get a nice lunge here on the race start. We start stacking up 2 by 2. And the McLaren leads the field to green here at Kyalami. GT3's underway. Nikita trying to lunge forward, but Red Nose managing to keep him at bay. Beautiful defensive move down into turn 1. And already some pushing and shoving. The shoulders are out, elbows are knocking through turn 2 and 3. Beautifully done by Red Nose to maintain position over the attacking Nikita, but he gets the brilliant undercut up into Barbecue and down the hill into Sunrise, side by side, as now the GT4 field will be going to green. And a beautiful launch from Dill Destroyer, but Joe Dirt managing to keep him at bay as well. Down into turn 1, he keeps the inside line, forcing Dill Destroyer to the outside, but he gets the run and now has the ideal line through the following sector of corners and up the hill. Dill Destroyer into P1. Another undercut seemingly impending in that number 9 Camaro, but now Mercedes leads 3 Camaros, followed by the Alpine back in P5. Nikita already taking the lead and opening it up to a 0.2 of a second gap. Red Nose falling behind your race leader, but not letting him out. Down through mineshaft and hard on the brakes into the inside, but he's not going to get it done. Tries to set something up on the approach to Cheetah, but can he make it happen? Such a fast corner, but not a great overtaking zone. Whoever gets the run out of the final corner will have a hefty advantage down the main straight. That Mercedes seems planted, in the AMG very quick behind, right in his wheel tracks. Red Nose not letting your championship leader get away, and these guys have already, the top 3, stepped out about 2 seconds over the rest of the field and don't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down. Nikita hard on the brakes and deep into the braking zone in that number 70 Kanzen machine. What a brilliant defense from Nikita so far this evening. And folks, racing all over the grid as you see the approach trying to make something happen, but not getting anything done. And up the hill into the following sector as they break into sector 2. As these guys start to sort out their differences, we've now got a battle going on for the lead once again into turn 1 in the GT4 category. This is a scene we've seen before, but Dill Destroyer doing a great job keeping that AMG planted firmly in the lead and defending against that undercut there. Joe Dirt stuck behind in the Camaro. And once again, we've got the top 5 kind of breaking away from the rest of the field here in class. Waylon Crace looked like he was facing a little bit of pressure, but I think the timing stand might be a little bit off. But there is pressure from behind. Tactical Nuclear Pingu in that Jannetta GT4, and around goes Waylon Crace. That, folks, is what we call the commentator's curse, and now Pingu is going to take P6 in class. I feel partially responsible for Waylon Crace spinning out at the crest of the hill, but folks, such a challenging corner there. It is not hard to dip a tire just the wrong way and lose the balance of the car. CB is Flavio Barros, and we've got somebody, I think that's Vicnet. No, it's Chill Blast in the number 75 Sun Energy AMG. Off and into the grass. Doesn't look to be any significant damage on that machine, so he should be able to get back up and running and keep the fight alive. Just has to close down some time. Ben Grabo getting hosed on the start, just absolutely plummeting through the starting grid. Started P3, falling back to P6, and now trying to claw back some positions over the rest of the field. Folks, we're only 8 minutes into this race, and we've already had plenty of battles going. Nikita stretching his legs at the front of the field, and now you've got Ben Grabo trying to make an attack on the inside of Flavio Barros in that R8 GT3, but he just can't get the run. And there's nowhere at the end of the lap that is particularly good. This right here is probably your best braking zone to make the pass. There's not a lot of places you can make a good lunge. See a little bit of dust kicked up in the background there, and Ben Grabo trying to be right on the bumper of Barros down the front straightaway. He's going to have a beautiful run down into turn one. Does he decide to pop out and take the move, though? He does. Out to driver's right of Flavio Barros goes Ben Grabo in the 98 Aston Martin, but he doesn't get it done. And now he's opened the door from behind for Chinese food in the number 9 McLaren. And now he gets a beautiful undercut in the run down to Sunrise. Barros runs a little bit wide, makes a mistake. We're 3 wide down into Sunrise Corner. Who is going to be the one to break first? It is going to be Ben Grabo on the outside, hung out to dry. Chinese up and through, but not closing the position down just yet. Brilliant driving here in GT3. These guys still side by side. McLaren, Aston, through the S's, and on the approach up the hill into the Lukop hairpin. It seems Ben Grabo finally gets it done, but the switchback set up but bounced out of by Chinese in the back, and that is P5 back for Ben Grabo, but not without a fight. And it doesn't seem to be over yet. Chinese food really looking to try and make something happen. On board now with the driver sitting in P6 in the number 9 McLaren. All over the back bumper of that Aston, but as we just talked about on the last lap, such a challenging final sector to get around through the kink, using every bit of that curb, trying to set himself up for a great exit here at Ingwe, the final corner of the lap. And he is right there. Do we see an attempt made in the slipstream? Not a big defensive line from Ben being taken there because he knows it's going to be a challenge to get around. And back in the GT4 category, we have had a change in lead. Dill Destroyer being passed by Joe Dirt. Chill Blast chasing Bermside up ahead in the GT3 category. Up and into the grass. Big miss. I'm not sure if there was a checkup there from the BMW ahead or if he just misjudged the closing rate. But that cost him a significant amount of time, as he's now back on the back bumper of the BMW ahead and looking to make a move on Bermside. Can he get anything done coming out of the S's or perhaps up the hill into Lukop? Switches over, but thinks better of it. Folks, I'm telling you, the last sector of this track, there's like 2 really good passing zones, and everything else is such a low percentage move. It's possible, but it's risky. Chill Blast, leaving nothing on the table. Is he going to make a pop into the braking zone? Not there. Great defense from Burnside, and the BMW in P10 stays firmly in the hands of the number 96 Turner Motorsports machine and lives to hold the position another day. Nikita now opening the gap over the rest of the field to 2.3 seconds. It seems Red Nose has had an incident, and now Chill Blast around Burnside for position down the straight. Can he get it done before turn 1 through the front kink? He's going to be hard on the brakes, deep into the braking zone, but deeper goes the BMW. Too deep and up into the dirty track. Still has the opportunity to switch back, but Chill Blast making that car as wide as possible. That BMW all over the track. We've got a spin. That looks to be Vicnet there, spun around facing the wrong way. And that right there sealed the deal for Chill Blast in the AMG GT3 number 75 car to get back up into P9. Burnside down to P10. And Vicnet 11 into 12th with a spin coming up the hill. I'd like to check in on your pole sitter. Looks to be no visible damage on board that McLaren. Probably just a mistake on the driver's behalf. As he works to fight his way back to the front of the field. Chinese still chasing down Ben Grabo, who's worked his way up to P4 now. Definitely assisted by the incident from Vicnet ahead. And these 5 here in GT4 are still very tight together. And now that's Tactical Nuclear Pingu around in the background. Big collision on the back end of that Ginetta. Everything looks to still be driving straight. Such a challenging corner, and another Ginetta going wide and into the dirt. So heartbreaking for Pingu. Sitting up in P6 is Joe Dirt doing a good job maintaining the lead, but not giving anything to the driver behind. Apologize for the brief break, folks. I needed to rest my vocal cords. I feel like I've been talking nonstop for 15, 20, 30 minutes, but it's been a great race so far. Hope you guys are enjoying it. Spiky Cactus in the Alpine worked his way up into P4. Early in the race was P5. This thing started to shake down. He's worked up into the top 4. But still, the cars to beat seem to be the Camaro and the Mercedes. Dill Destroyer and Joe Dirt doing a great job controlling the field. Further back, Kinetic Curb in the Aston. Trying to make some meaningful gains on the opponents ahead with GT3 traffic kind of filtered in. Speaking of traffic, folks, your race leader, he's in the thick of it right now. He has got GT4 traffic ahead and some behind. How well does your championship leader and your race leader, Nikita, handle the traffic? Well, folks, he's got a 3.8 second gap, and he's been carving through the traffic for the last 2-3 minutes, so I'd say pretty well. As he looks to set something up here on Pingu. Pingu just fighting to stay alive here. As the GT3 class leader works his way through the tricks and troubles of multi-class racing, folks. It's very, very challenging. Passing cars have to be patient, and the slower category also has to share some of that patience to keep everybody in harmony, as Spiky Cactus continuing to chase down the top 3. Love the Alpine. Such a Wonderful car. Looks so lovely. Makes a great sound. Glad to see it. We're well represented out here by a fantastic driver. That is Spiky Cactus. Folks, Red Nose is not out of this fight yet. He is on the charge, 15.2 seconds back from your race leader. But I think he's got plenty of pace left in this McLaren as he's working to charge back through the field after an incident. Just to go over the timing in GT3. Sector 1, fastest time held by Red Nose with 35.476. Nikita holds the fastest time in Sector 2, his fourth lap, the 35.244. And Something Fierce, fastest Sector 3 on lap 5, the 31.446. Three different drivers holding the fastest time in each of the sectors. It's now Red Nose facing the GT4 traffic, trying to do what he can to dispatch it. And dispatch he does. Another one down and out, up into Lukop. And he'll be nursing that throttle pedal to the exit of the corner, and he gets down into the mineshaft straight. You know that once he reaches clean air, he'll be putting in qualifying laps to try and catch up to Nikita. One of the few drivers on the grid that was actually able to keep up with the rapid driver who leads this series and the field right now. Currently 4.4 seconds to the good over Ian Arnold in P2. But your pole sitter is not going down without a fight. Chinese once again showing Ben Grabo what for as they start to catch up to lap traffic. Doing what he can to use that lap traffic against his opponent. The question is, will it be enough? Through Sunrise Corner. I love this corner. It's such a beautiful view. Very challenging during times of the day, and a bit of an off for Chinese food. The commentator's curse is real, and Chinese off and into the wall. Costly mistake for the number 9 McLaren. I see no significant wobble or crabbing in that car, so he'll be working to try to regain that position. Folks, I've cursed 2 drivers tonight. I'm not necessarily proud about it, but it keeps the racing interesting. And Red Nose now looking to capitalize. McLaren on McLaren action. You have to expect there's got to be a little damage on board that number 9 McLaren. It's just a matter of how much. Is he going to be able to fend off the pending attack from the pole sitter? Or will this be where it unfolds for Red Nose? Excuse me. Closing in now on Flavio Barros in the RAGT. Folks, if you're just tuning in, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is Can-Am SimSports Summer Endurance Series. This is round 3 of, I believe, a 6-round championship bi-weekly series. So we won't be back next Monday. We'll be back the following Monday GT3 and GT4, touring some of the finest tracks in the world. Tonight we are in beautiful South Africa at the roller coaster of a road course, Kyalami. And a roller coaster it's been so far. Your pole sitter with an incident earlier in the race costing him several spots. I don't know the final number, but went from P7 to roughly 8th or 9th. I don't know where he ended up landing, but it was a struggle. And that was after falling to P2 after a great battle with your championship leader, Nikita, who's currently commanding the GT3 field, as always, in P1 with a 4.8 second deficit. Now the GT3 traffic thick ahead of these, or GT4 traffic thick ahead of the GT3 category as drivers work to cross through, and that is where Nikita makes his gains. Ian Arnold mired in the traffic. It's cost him massive time. Now 5.5 seconds over Nikita, or behind Nikita. The number 3 Corvette trying to scrap together lost time. Dill Destroyer not quite letting Joe Dirt out of his sight. But the gap has definitely opened up. About 24 minutes into this contest, folks. An hour and 6 minutes left. As lap traffic trying to work their way through such a challenging part of the circuit for the GT3s to try to work through. But he's gonna do it anyways, and that's going to be a challenge. Chinese now almost side by side, and you see Red Nose, your pole sitter, diving into the slipstream behind these two. He's gonna make a late move on the brakes. Can he get the position into turn 1? Oh, it's not his yet. The number 59 McLaren trapped on the outside of the corner and trapped into the S's up the hill. He's fallen back into P7, but he's ready to strike again, brilliantly using the slower traffic ahead to try to charge his way through. There's so much speed in this McLaren. It's just a matter of whether or not he can get it to the ground. Up the hill on the outside into Lukop. Not going to be enough, but he switches back down the run through Mineshaft. Can he make the move into the following corner? This is such a fast straight. He's going to have plenty of headroom in the slipstream. Does he get the late braking maneuver? He's on the brakes on the inside. Door to door. I don't think there was any contact, but there's definitely some competition as he goes through Cheetah on the inside. Switching back goes Chinese, but I think the position just might be back to Red Nose. They're side by side on the exit of Ingwe, the final corner, and across the line. That will be position gained for Red Nose, your race pole sitter, charging back through the field. But a late lunge from Chinese not going to happen, and that lunge costs several tenths, and he slides into the entry of the corner, out into the marbles, the number 9 McLaren. Back down into P7. Red Nose charging back up through the field, P6, with his sights set firmly on Flavio Barros up ahead in the Audi. And next will be Ben Grabo, who's worked his way back up into 4th. The GT3 fight will be exciting with your pole sitter mired back in the traffic. Trying to set something up here on the Audi. CB, a.k.a. Flavio Barros, doing what he can to hold on. Way to the outside, looking to maybe try to switch back, and he was very fast into the corner exit, but he just got checked up too much, and that let your pole sitter through, who's now cracked back into the top 5 and is on a warpath for your race leader. He's got quite the distance to cover, but we still have pit cycles that we've got to get through, and strategy still has the opportunity to pan out and play into the hands of anybody in the GT3 category. Sliding again through turn 1 is the number 9 McLaren. Such a challenge. I wonder if that contact earlier into the wall has created some rear suspension damage. It's just not able to, maybe not. Yeah, he did. He rubbed the wall on driver's left. I just wonder if he's not getting that inside grip and the car is stepping out. See a little bit of understeer there through Sunrise. Something doesn't seem right in the balance of that McLaren. Definitely has to be thinking about having it looked at during his pit stop, whenever that may be. Nikita firmly in control of the GT3 field, and Dill Destroyer now leading the GT4s with Joe Dirt back 12 seconds. I'm sorry. Make sure I'm doing my math right. I think that's 8 seconds. 8 seconds off of your race leader in class. Must have been a mistake, and I apologize. We were watching the GT3s, and we missed it, but Joe Dirt will certainly be a spectacle to watch. Getting back up through the field. The car looks to be relatively unscathed. The number 9 Steam Machine Camaro. That beautiful cartoon animated livery. I love it. We'll see what the Camaro has in store to try to regain the position. Is Dill Destroyer getting passed by Spectre 01 for position in a very challenging part of the circuit. Mentioned it earlier, it's not impossible to pass there, but it is so challenging because there's not a lot of room and the braking points are one after the other, but the Camaro up into the lead. We ride on board now with Dill Destroyer to see if he can make anything happen over the Camaro ahead. These two battling will absolutely allow Spiky Cactus the opportunity to close the gap. Chinese closing in on CB, I believe. Maybe that was Soupy. I'm not sure. We'll return to the battle in GT4 because, without question, it is heating up. Good job defending with that number 66 Camaro. And I think he's kind of comfortable right now leading this race. Balance of the car seems to be there. Not struggling around any of the corners. The Dill Destroyer starting to lose ground on the new race leader. The Cheetah King, the Camaro, will maintain the lead across the line. Brilliant drive so far from Spectre. The great drive we've had all night from all of our competitors. The competition has been spectacular so far. Whoops. Joe Dirt back into the frame. Just 6 seconds behind now, just under 7. Folks, while it is quiet, I'm going to give myself a quick vocal break. In the meantime, we will keep an eye out on the track. I'll catch my breath. And we will be right back to Kyalami, the Summer Endurance Series, here with Can-Am SimSport. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome back to Kyalami here at the Grand Prix Circuit in Midrand, South Africa. We're set for some exciting racing, as you see on screen right now. Something Fierce and Ian Arnold embroiled in a very tight fight for P2. Nestled more than 5,000 feet above sea level, Kyalami is one of the most demanding road courses on the Can-Am SimSport Summer Endurance Series calendar. This is a circuit where every lap is a balancing act between speed, precision, and tire management, something we've seen all too many times this evening. 16 corners spread across 2.8 miles, rolling elevation changes, very little time for these drivers to catch their breath, and every mistake is magnified and consistency is rewarded far more than pace. I am your host tonight. You're tuned into the LPO network for the Can-Am SimSport Summer Endurance Series. This is round 3 of the bi-weekly 6-round championship. GT3s and GT4s take it to the field every other week in an hour and 30-minute showdown at tracks all around the world, challenging the finest drivers here at CAS. And challenging it has been for some of these guys tonight. Absolute brilliant show at the start. We're 51 minutes remaining, an hour and 39 minutes into this showdown. Thank you for joining us. I am Les. You can also call me Ryan Cooper. It's not my real name, but it's my online alias, and you are watching the battle for third here in the GT3 category. Appreciate you giving me a moment to catch my breath as the BMW really trying to make it happen on the Corvette. Brilliant driving so far through the field. And there goes the move into turn 1, but the switchback is strong. That outside lane, it's challenging to hold on to on corner entry, but if you keep it, it is such a powerful lead into the following corner, and we talked about it at the top of the race, but folks, corners sequence into other corners. It is very crucial to nail your entries and exits, because if you get out of flow on just one, it ends up being such a challenge. This sector of corners right here, precisely one of them, the corner exit terminating immediately into the entry of the uphill, and now we're side by side almost through the S's, but Something Fierce thinking better of it. Ducks back behind the Corvette for the fight to continue through the S's and up the hill into Lukop, one of the most challenging corners on the circuit. And he's not afraid to attempt a pass as Crazy Canuck is in pit lane. I think he's been there for a minute. I've seen no rear wing on that machine, so there has been contact with a wall or a competitor as we return to the battle for second between Ian Arnold and Something Fierce. Ben Grabo locking down P4 pretty comfortably, and Red Nose back down to P8. I imagine there was another mistake from the pole sitter, and that is truly devastating for a car that had so much pace. But this fight between the Beamer and the Vet is stacking up to be an absolute burner. Down into turn 1 again, these two cannot seem to separate themselves. And now he tries to switch back and onto the overcut, but up into Barbecue. It's such a tricky section to maintain that outside lane, so he ducks back into the slipstream. And now down the run towards Sunrise. Can he make something happen? He's got the ideal line, trapping that Corvette up in the high lane. Little bit of checkup there, and the Corvette switching back over to the inside, but not enough. Ian Arnold back down to P3, but I don't think this fight's over. A big slip there from Something Fierce up and into the dirt. All it takes is briefly dropping that Michelin tire into the dust, and all of the balance in the car goes away, and that opened the door for Arnold to really show that he's not done fighting yet. Switches back through the Luke Kopp hairpin and down the mine shaft straight. Can he keep the position at the line? Burnside now in pit lane. And that was something fierce off and into the tire wall. Massive damage on board the BMW. Folks, we talked about it early in the race. That is a flat-out straightaway. And Ian Arnold now in pit lane. I believe we're starting to see GT3 traffic cycling through for scheduled stops, and that car right there is the retirement of something fierce. Oh, no, it's not. I apologize. He's shedding parts through the gravel trap, but he is continuing on. Now Chill Blast leading Soupy as the GT3 field beginning to make their stops. Nikita still out and in front, catching up to the race leaders in class for GT4. That is Dill Destroyer and Spectre up ahead, quickly dispatching Dill Destroyer and the class leader of Spectre, and we have had a retirement. I do believe that was the other BMW, Something Fierce, still in the fight. And he has made it safely to pit lane. No safety car has been deployed. And your GT3 class leader continues to ravage the field and expand his championship lead with authority hard over the curbs. The Mercedes-AMG GT3 continues to power through. Soupy continuing to try and chase down Chill Blast, about a half a second up the road there, give or take a few tenths here and there. What a great fight we've had so far, folks, and things are shaping up to continue as the race rolls on. 45 minutes left. We have made it to the halfway point. Drivers are starting to cycle through the pits in the top category. We've seen a few of the GT3s come in, I believe, on merit and not for damage. Some of them definitely in for damage. Something Fierce, one of those drivers who's pit for repairs. Crazy Canuck is another one who pit for repairs and has fallen back to the end of the overall field, not just the GT3 category. It's become a race for survival tonight for some of these guys. Spectre continuing to open the gap up on Dill Destroyer behind. At least I thought so. The timing and scoring pylon does seem to be incorrect because that is not a 5-second gap. No, sir, that is maybe a half a second gap. And Joe Dirt still hanging tight in the back of this battle, just hoping these guys slow each other down long enough for him to get into the mix. You know, if I'm Spectre, I'm considering defending really hard until Dill Destroyer starts to face pressure from Joe Dirt. Then you start to put the hammer down, start racing, force your opponent to get into a battle with somebody behind him. As he commands this field. A little bit of a step out oversteer there into turn one. That's going to give Dill the opportunity to close the gap, but he doesn't get around. Beautiful exit from both drivers, but a little bit more power down for the Camaro. These three have been pretty close in pace all night tonight. Spiky Cactus hanging on in fourth. About 16 seconds to the good, 14 seconds to the good of P5, which is Tactical Nuclear Pingu. One retirement so far, folks. That is absolutely fantastic to see. So far, everybody's done a good job staying in it. The race is long. There's plenty of driving left to go. And the battle up here for P5 is heating up between Soupy and Chill Blast. Number 77 Porsche GT3 all over that Mercedes. Handful of drivers have made their way to pit lane. Let's not forget. Ian Arnold, in fact, one of the drivers ahead of this battle, has been to pit lane, serviced and departed, though the amount of time he lost would lead me to believe it was just a brief top-off, perhaps. Not a full tank and tire service. Right on board now with the number 77 Porsche, Rexy for AO Racing in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Challenge. And now is going to be where things get interesting. Backmarker traffic and slower class cars. Could this be where Soupy gets the upper hand and makes his way around the number 75 Sun Energy machine? Time will tell, but I think we've only got a corner, maybe two, and a brilliant attempt there from Chill Blast to get around some of that lap traffic on the entry to turn one, and it was critical, and Soupy could not do it. He tried the same move on the corner, mid-corner apex, and slid into the wall, loss of traction, and that is damage for the number 77 machine. And around goes something. No, who was that? Bermside, another incident for Bermside, hard into the concrete wall. No rear wing on that BMW, but he is going to fight to get it back to pit lane and try to maintain some points on the day. Heartbreak for Bermside. Chill Blast doing an absolutely brilliant job into turn one. He saw an opportunity to really force an issue with a slower class car, knowing well that if he got that car behind him, he could pick himself and protect himself for another corner or two and allow him to open that gap through the lap traffic. It almost went south for him. Soupy tried to follow, but about mid-corner, the balance of the car just lost. And he slid off and to the left into the wall. That's going to be some significant damage on that Porsche and will definitely hinder the performance of that car. God, you gotta love the sound of that 911 GT3. The car still seems to be driving all right, a little bit wide on the exit of Barbecue and down the straight into Sunrise. He didn't lose as much ground as he could have. The gap from 0.6 to about 6 seconds. So definitely doing a good job of managing the damage. Spectre 01 continuing to lead the GT4 category with seemingly very little pressure from Dill Destroyer behind. What great racing we've had so far tonight. We've still got 38.5 minutes of competition left. It will be an absolute burner of a finale, but Nikita, in a way that only Nikita can, has expanded his gap over the field to 25 seconds. Absolutely insane. Driving in a class of his own. Well and truly has his pit stop covered, and twice. He could box twice and still be protected against the driver in P2. What a brilliant drive from the driver in the number 70 Kansan Performance Machine. They're going to have to create a whole new category for Nikita. GT3 Pro, GT3 Pro Am, GT3 Am, and GT3N for Nikita. And it will just be him and potentially clones of himself in that category. And folks, he is about to lap 7th place in class. 7th place in class. Absolutely insane driving from your championship leader. And around he goes. A fight not being put up by Soupy, who's already nursing some wounds and trying to limp Rexy to the end of the stint. Folks, I am expecting to see the GT3 field in here in the next 6 to 8 minutes, I think. I believe that at full push, these guys can go about an hour on gas, give or take. I know we've seen a few stops earlier already, and now Nikita diving into the pit lane. Not that that is of any concern to quite literally anybody, because Ben Grabo still has to stop and is well behind Nikita on the track. Nikita will be looking for the blend. And we watch for Ben Grabo. Ben Grabo will take the lead, but only for a moment. Nikita will be struggling on, I presume, struggling on cold tires, though I'm not sure if he took tires or not. These Michelin tires can take a beating here in these GT3 category cars, but 3.5 seconds behind Ben Grabo. Once again, I do believe Ben still has to pit. I believe the only GT3 in the front of the field that is competing for position that has pit is Nikita. Ben Grabo now your race leader in GT3, and Joe Dirt has worked back up to the lead of GT4 with Dill Destroyer 6 seconds behind. I presume that was an accident, perhaps a racing incident, costing him quite a lot of time. Spectre, having been comfortable leading the race for a little while, now has to look at the taillights of another Camaro. But he's not done. You can hear that hesitation on the throttle as they approach this downhill. A bit of a lift there on the throttle. Deep on the brakes. Very tighty through that corner. Chevy on Chevy. These two continue to duel down the front straightaway and across the line. Joe Dirt will lead the lap over Spectre. I believe we've had another retirement in the GT3 category. Looks to be Bermside. And Spectre on the outside of Joe Dirt. Up the hill into Barbecue. He has got the lead on the run down to Sunset Corner. The number 9 Steam Machine will be screaming in his rearview mirror, trying to find the opening. Joe Dirt not letting him get away, reminding him that he is there and ready to pounce the moment he drops a tire the wrong way. And folks, now they've got Chill Blast behind. Looking for an opportunity to get through, and he does. But that opens the door for Joe Dirt, looking and finding an opening with the faster traffic. And I think those flashes there from Spectre are at the GT3 ahead saying, buddy, you just opened the door for my competitor, and now he has to fight again to get the position back. Flavio Barros now in pit lane for his regular service in the Audi. Something Fierce now trapped back in P2 again in class. Chill Blast boxing, adding insult to injury to the GTs that he just passed. I imagine there's some fuming going on behind the helmet of the GT4 category drivers that we are watching right now, but that doesn't mean the fight has slowed down. Spectre is ready and waiting for an opening on Joe Dirt. Brilliant heads-up driving by Joe Dirt. They're looking for an opportunity. The faster traffic came through, and Joe recognized the opportunity to follow him on the inside, not really giving Spectre the opportunity to block it. There was no defense that was available because he tucked into the slipstream of the Mercedes ahead and just drove through the corner. There's really nothing Spectre could do other than watch his opponent drive away from him. And now Joe Dirt will have to defend from a fellow Camaro behind. Nikita on fresh tires, fresh fuel at least. Shortly thereafter, his stop, 1.6 seconds behind Ben Grabo, who once again, I believe, has to pit. I'm not sure. I won't make wild assumptions, but I believe Ben still has to pit. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. The battle here for the lead in GT4 heating up as the switchback is strong for Spectre, and he goes to the inside of Joe Dirt, catching that side draft down the front straight and on the approach to the kink. Can he outbrake him into turn one? They are door-to-door drag racing into turn one. Folks, there are so many passing opportunities here, and Joe Dirt doing a brilliant job locking that outside lane down and setting himself up for the next corner, and he does so beautifully, but the door is open on the approach to Barbecue, and up the hill goes Spectre, but side by side again on the run down to Sunrise. Car number 9 and car number 66 continuing to fight for the lead of the GT4 category. Spectre getting impatient in the trackside car, hoping to find a way around the Steam Machine. As he's looking for an opportunity to get around, listen to the lift. Tries to switch it back. Joe Dirt closing the door on him on the outside. We've seen accidents happen here on the run through Mineshaft. Can he keep his foot buried? Little bit of a lift. Very aggressive on the brakes, and he's going to try to stick his nose in again on Joe Dirt, facing all the pressure on the run up to the Cheetah Kink. Nikita now just 0.2 behind Ben Grabo, your current race leader in GT3. And continuing to put the pressure on. Big lunge from the number 66 on the apex and side-by-side again with Joe Dirt. But these two just cannot get away from each other. Joe Dirt now with the lead up into the barbecue corner and down the run towards Sunrise. It'll be Ben Grabo, or I'm sorry, not Ben Grabo, Joe Dirt again leading the charge towards Sunrise corner. Spectrum trapped in his wheel tracks with more lap traffic coming now. Spectre hoping he can copy the move that his opponent used on him just laps ago. Can he follow Red Nose through when he makes his move through this GT4 traffic? And now Nikita back into the lead of this race as if there was ever a doubt. Spectre trying to find the opening. He does jump up to that line with the GT3, but doesn't get there before the door closes, and now he has to do it again on merit. You can see how strong he is in that braking zone there over Joe Dirt. He closes up such a gap in this final few corners. And he tends to have such a great run here out of Ingwe. The final corner, a little bit slower that time on the exit, but he's still right there. And folks, this is the battle for the lead in GT4. These guys absolutely putting on a hell of a show. Wasn't quite there to make the lunge in turn one this lap. He will drop back and reevaluate. Sunrise corner, such a tricky corner. It's going to be brutal this time of day with the sun setting. Drivers are going to have very limited visibility coming through Sunrise. Is it sunrise or sunset? It would make sense if it was sunset. I bet I've been saying it wrong this whole time. Let's just see. I bet. We want to take bets? Bet I've been saying it wrong. Sunset corner. That makes a lot of sense. Somebody go back and just take me saying sunset and edit it over all the times I said sunrise corner, because I was wrong. But I digress. The battle here for P1 in the GT4 category still brilliantly on fire. And a familiar sight now looming in the mirrors of the number 66 Camaro. That is the number 75 Mercedes AMG GT3 driven by Chill Blast. The very GT3 that cost him the lead in his battle with Joe Dirt. Maybe now hoping for a forgive me favor from the GT3 driver to potentially give him the opening to get through and take the lead of the class back. And all this racing has allowed Dill Destroyer, who just popped into frame there behind the scoreboard, to start to close back in on the class leaders, and we will be back down to a 3-car fight here before the end of this race. 23 minutes left. Dill Destroyer, I'm sorry, Spectre saying, no, you're not going around me there. Instead, around on the inside of the entry to the S's, and this fight seems to have simmered down for the time being. GT3 traffic of Chill Blast up ahead. Struggling to get around the GT4, but he'll get it here on the mineshaft straight. So much power differential between the two. Trapping the GT4 on the outside, though, very bold and probably not appreciated by the number 9 Camaro. But that is racing, and now Joe Dirt maintaining the lead. Of this category. There's Dill Destroyer. Nikita already 5 seconds up from Ben Grabo. And scything through lap traffic like they're standing still. Because that's what Nikita does. Okay, I have to know. I feel like he needs to pit for fuel. He does not. He must have already pit. So he's got plenty of fuel on board this machine. Make it another 20 laps, I do believe. Well, maybe not. We'll get ourselves a fuel calculation when he comes across the line. Ben probably just trying to survive and scrap together a decent finish after falling back to P6 or 7 on the start of the race. Recovery to P2 with a healthy margin. Let's see where he's at when he crosses the line. .3. The sun is set here, and Midran South Africa, sorry. Brain space there for a minute. At the Kyalami racetrack, but that has not slowed down the racing. Nikita continuing to lead the GT3 category by a whopping 5.9 seconds and continuing to expand that lead. Ben Grabo, who we are currently watching right now, might be able to stretch the rest of this race on fuel, but I don't know. We're currently monitoring that situation real time. Joe Dirt and Spectre back in the GT4 category. That fight is starting to heat up again. We will tune back to those boys in just a minute. estimated 11 laps remaining. Ben Grabo now crossing the line. 18.1. It's 2.2 liters of fuel per lap. An estimated 10 laps remaining. That's 22 liters. Folks, I think Ben is going to have to pit. We will continue to watch that. There's another lunge from Spectre in the GT4 category. Goes unanswered. Joe Dirt doing a great job defending the 66 Camaro. And what a great showing for the Chevy boys this evening. P1 and 2 in the GT4 category. P3 in the GT3 category. That's what the boys in Detroit like to see. Chevy on top. Here in South Africa. Folks, I'm going to give my voice one more brief break, and then we will be back all the way through the finish. So please don't go anywhere. We've got plenty of great racing to come. And I'd hate for you to miss it because it's going to be an absolute burner. Stay tuned. And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit, where we have reached the final stages, the business end of tonight's GT3 GT4 multi-class event for Can-Am SimSport's Summer Endurance Series. If you're just joining us, you picked a great time. The final 15 minutes are underway, and they're shaping up to be some of the most exciting minutes of the race. Battles all over the field tonight, and the field has stacked back up after nearly an hour and a half of racing. Every decision now carrying extra weight. The tire wear, not a factor, as drivers who have worn the tires have pit, stopped, refueled, and re-rubbered, and are back out on the racetrack. Fuel strategy has come and gone. And what we've got now is a sprint to the checkered flag at this stage. Drivers balancing out right aggression with the knowledge that one small mistake can erase an entire evening's worth of hard work and hard racing. Absolute demanding track. This is Can-Am SimSport, the Summer Endurance Series, our bi-weekly championship. Multi-class GT3 and GT4 racing, and you're seeing the thick of it now with the GT4s being absolutely stampeded by the faster class. Folks, I am Les. You can call me Ryan Cooper. You are watching the LPO Network, and this is the final 13 and a half minutes of the Can-Am SimSport Summer Endurance Series Round 3 here at Midrand, South Africa, the Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. My favorite, one of my favorite tracks in the GT calendar. And for good reason. Joe Dirt managing to expand upon his lead because of the lap traffic, but a story we want to follow, folks. We've got an estimated 8 laps remaining. I don't think Ben Grabo is gonna make it on fuel, but we're gonna watch and see if the number 98 Aston has what it takes to squeeze the fuel number out. What a great drive we've had these last few moments here in the GT4 category. And another lunge coming from Spectre, but he just can't seem to get it done. Joe Dirt doing a beautiful job of defending that ideal lane. And now the faster traffic is going to hose him on the run up to Barbecue. And now the straightaway into Sunset Corner, but he's going to have it all come undone. Almost there on the exit of Barbecue. Heart in throat moment for Spectre, currently sitting P2. And now Dill Destroyer flashing the lap down car, I believe of, nope, that's John Shu. Why was he flashing his lights, you might ask? Because Dill Destroyer has his sights firmly set on Spectre in the Camaro up ahead. The battle for second and first is now a 3-way shot with just over 10 minutes left in this race. This is going to get exciting. Folks, you picked a great time if you're just tuning in. The final moments here at Kyalami Circuit are going to be thrilling. The sun's going down, the track's cooling off, and the racing is heating up, especially here in the GT4 category. Who knew that the slower class cars would be this much fun to watch? They've really put on one hell of a show this evening and show no signs of slowing down. Dill Destroyer maintained a great lead early in this race, losing it to Spectre about 20 minutes ago or so, maybe even more. Spectre maintaining the lead for a while and then getting jumped when faster traffic came through. Joe Dirt managing to overtake behind the faster car, and Joe Dirt's maintained pretty consistent position since then. Headlights are on a lot of the cars here. Through Sunset Corner, I've corrected my verbiage. Go the top 3 in the GT4 category. Now, folks, I do believe the timing and scoring pylon is absolutely boogered, because that is not a 6-second gap over Joe Dirt. I believe the 3 of these guys are probably blanketed by about a second. And that gap continues to wean down ever so slightly. I definitely think the cars behind Joe Dirt are quicker. But Joe Dirt doing a brilliant job defending the attacks, the lunges from the 66 Camaro behind, and keeping the number 9 Steam Machine firmly planted in first place in the GT4 field. Ben Grabo, 6.6 seconds or liters of fuel left on board that machine with an estimated 5.5 laps left. I don't think he can do it, guys. He's going to have to stop. I just don't think he's going to be able to... Yeah, see, these seem like shorter shifts. I'm not for certain. I imagine we see Ben Grabo in towards the end of this lap. I don't know if he can make it on fuel. He is so close. Speaking of so close, Spectre has closed the gap back down on Joe Dirt 9. And in his mirrors is the AMG GT4 of Dill Destroyer, who led the race so long early in the first part of the stint. Let Spectre through seemingly without much of a fight. And now Spectre trying to lunge on the outside, but he doesn't get it done, and that almost opens the door for Dill Destroyer to get down through the inside, but he's going to maintain that outside lane. Hard on the throttle down Mineshaft Straight. Very fast corner as you see the bunch of them. 1, 2, 3 across the camera. And we are in for an absolute showdown here in the GT4 category. Spectre doing a great job trying to cut onto the inside of Joe Dirt, the number 9 Camaro. But these two, it is cat and mouse. And now Dill Destroyer is going to have a hand in the fight saying, hey boys, I'm here to play too. And I want the lead of this race just as bad as you. As they are single file through the front straight and down through the kink. A big lunge from Dill Destroyer and a defensive move from Spectre, also going to double as an offensive move, and he gets a clean break through the inside of the corner. But that outside lane, Joe Dirt so good at maintaining the balance of that car in the dirty track, manages to keep the lead, but now Spectre hot on his heels as we race down to Sunset Corner once again. With Kinetic Curb up ahead, a lapped car. What will the back-marking traffic do for the fight at the front of this field? Spectre is using every bit of racetrack he can to find an opening, and he just can't seem to get it done. And now Dill Destroyer pokes his head in, but he decides against it through the S's. He thinks it's probably not the best time. Be patient. We're going to find an opening later in the stint. Still got nearly 6 minutes of racing left. Plenty can happen in the next 6 minutes. As now a run down through Mineshaft again with a pace that worked so well using the same line that he got a great run. He's going to try to set him up again. As Ben Grabo now in pit lane for a splash of fuel and out. Quick stop, but enough to promote Ian Arnold in the Corvette up to P2. Through the Cheetah Kink. Folks, this is such a tense fight at the front of the field. He is on the back bumper on the exit of Ingwe and across the line. Spectre hot on the heels of Joe Dirt. Lap traffic ahead of the race leaders in class. The flashing coming from the faster cars behind. And a little bit of a wobble there from Spectre, but he manages to keep it firmly in the second place spot. And a great run up the hill into Barbecue as we go down the run towards Sunrise Corner again. In a 1-2-3 train, Joe Dirt leading Spectre, leading Dill Destroyer. What a fight we have had unfold here at the end of this race in the GT4 category. These guys are just hooked at the bumpers. They cannot separate from each other. They were together early in the race, and now they've found themselves back together here at the end after pit cycles, tires, fuel, you name it, strategy, whatever you want to call it. They're back together, 1, 2, and 3, albeit a little different than they were earlier in the event. This is so exciting to watch. Joe Dirt doing a great job just moving that car and placing it where it needs to be to protect himself from a lunge. Oh, and a little bit of a late lunge there from Spectre is going to open the door, and Dill Destroyer is through. They're going to go side by side through Cheetah. No, he's going to back out of it. And Dill Destroyer up into P2. You have to assume that Spectre is fuming behind the visor right now. Such a small mistake. We've mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, but folks, you got to... that right there is a prime example. Such a tiny mistake cost him 1/10 of a second, and that's all that Dill Destroyer needed to work his way through. And now try to chase down your race leader, Joe Dirt. And he's got 3 minutes to do so, and Dill Destroyer is on a charge. The pace is behind him. Spectre trying to hunt him down, but the Chevy just not able to keep up with the Mercedes now. That are potentially holding up the Chevy. Looking here, it almost looks like Spectre's got the outright speed, but the Mercedes is just confident and balanced in the corners, and that Camaro has to scrub a lot more speed. He struggles to keep up with the AMG right here through the corners, but you'll see on the run, and when the power goes down, that Camaro comes to life. Up the hill into Lucop. It's going to be side by side with Spectre again, but not enough overlap there for Spectre to confidently close the door and get the position, so he's going to follow in the wheel tracks of the Mercedes and try for another move. And folks, the benefactor here, Joe Dirt. The two drivers behind him duking it out. Now he gets to drive away and watch the battle unfold in his rearview mirror. As we cross the start-finish line, I believe Nikita will get the white flag on the next lap. Dill Destroyer still ahead of Spectre. And Joe Dirt, you can see, trying to predict a lunge. These guys are on razor-thin margins with fuel. They will have just enough to get across the line, I think. I believe this will be the white flag for Nikita. He will make one more pass around this beautiful circuit here in Midrand, South Africa. What a great job he has done tonight. If you had any question about his pace, that 28-second gap over Ian Arnold is on merit. 28 seconds. That's just humiliating your competition. As the number 70 Kanzen Performance AMG works to carve through some more lap traffic. Not really urgent about it. Doesn't have a huge sense of urgency. The closest guy behind is nearly 27 seconds, so he gets held up a little bit. I think he's okay. One more time through the Luke Cop hairpin. And Nikita, we thought maybe he read his match. Red Nose 58 with a great qualifying attempt, putting him firmly at the front of the field, but only just. Managed to fend off Nikita for about a lap before ultimately Nikita got around. And Nikita opening the doors, stretching his legs on the Mercedes, and will take home the victory in class. Checkered flag falls for the GT3 category. Nikita P1. Ian Arnold will come across the line, I presume, in P2. And Ben Grabo will cross P3. That'll be the top three, your podium, in the GT3 category. But, folks, the fight is still very much alive for these guys. Setting one tire the wrong way will cost these guys a position. Joe Dirt, your pole sitter, yielded the lead early on. Dill Destroyer managing to get around on the opening laps. Led a good chunk of the race before Spectre got around Dill Destroyer. For a while we thought it might have been Spectre's race. continued to drive away from Dill Destroyer. And then Dill Destroyer with a bit of an incident, costing him 6 or 7 seconds, and he manages to claw his way back into P2. But it's not enough. The number 9 Steam Machine, driven by Joe Dirt, one more time through Ingwe, and Dill Destroyer is right there, flashing the lights, possibly in frustration, possibly in relief. The race is over. Dill Destroyer P2, Spectre P3. What a brilliant drive from Spectre. We have to admire and acknowledge the absolute clinic he put on with lunges. Brilliantly respective, clean racing. That's what we like to see here at Can-Am SimSport as they all pile in. Joe Dirt, your class leader in GT4. Folks, that was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable to watch. Brilliant show. Great job to everybody from Can-Am SimSport. Sorry, giving my voice a bit of a rest here. Bear with me here as I make sure I don't have instructions from the team. What a show. What an exciting race. But folks, that is all she wrote. Checkered flag has fallen here at Kyalami, and what a race we had. One of the world's most demanding circuits. Each lap, these drivers were challenged by elevation changes, technical corners, and strategic decisions that make Kyalami such a rewarding and fun place to race. Congratulations to today's winners, Nikita in the GT3 category and Joe Dirt in GT4, along with every other driver who fought their way to the finish. There was some hardships out there tonight, folks. Valuable championship points now on the board, and the title picture continues to come into focus and take more fascinating turns as we move one step closer to crowning our Summer Endurance Championship champions. I appreciate everybody who joined us from all around the world. Hope you enjoyed tonight's show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. From me, myself, and I in the booth, cameraman, director, lead commentator, and everybody behind the scenes who helped put on tonight's fantastic event. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the folks at CAST for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to bring these events to you all, and I hope you enjoy what we have on tap for you. I cannot wait to see you all in the next round of our Summer Endurance Championship. We will be at, I don't know. We will be at Imola. So tune in. Be sure to check us out for Imola. That'll be on July 27th at 8:30 Eastern Time. Until then, drive safely, take care, and have a great night. Thank you so much. And we're signing off from Kyalami, South Africa. Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.